It's officially draft day. What will the Dallas Cowboys do at pick number 12? We'll tell you next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Moser. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Moser. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Landon, I'm fired up. I watched draft day last night. I know you did as well. I got my pancakes already. I'm so excited for the draft. There you go.
Landon's just says podcast no matter what.
Oh, there you go. There. We're fired up. So we've got some rumblings that we want to talk to. We're going to make our final pick at the end of the show, who we believe the Cowboys are going to select in round one. But I want to start with this tweet from our guy, Mike Fisher, who said, I'm told in Cowboys meetings, new head coach Brian Schottenheimer is pounding the table, not just for players, but for character players. What do you think he means by that?
Well, I think it means a couple different things. I mean, I think that it means the traditional kind of, good character, guys who are leaders, guys who are going out and getting in trouble on a Saturday night. The traditional thought that when we think about, the Cowboys have definitely had a reputation at certain points for having guys with, let's say, loose character or that have like to go out and have fun. And certainly the Cowboys have had some guys that have been in trouble over the years for different things that are a lot less than just, a lot more dangerous than just going out and having fun. So obviously I think he's talking about, folks that can be relied upon, good folks that are family folks that, are consistent. That's something that you want from on your workforce. I think anyways, just someone that can be relied upon. And I think what's different this year, and we're starting to see these kind of reports come out more and more from a variety of different, not just Cowboy sources, is that I think that teams are looking into football character more and more. How serious are you about football? How serious are you about committing to the team? I think now that these players are starting to get paid a little bit more in college, there is a concern that some of these guys are coming into the NFL and, they're just viewing this as a job, which I personally don't think that there's anything wrong with, but I think that there is also nothing wrong with prioritizing guys who you think are obsessed with football and are going to be, squeezing the every bit of juice out of themselves to get better at football every single day. So I think that those are the kind of things that they're looking for is overall the takeaway being consistency and somebody that loves football enough that that's their obsession. That's what they pour themselves into all the time. And those are the kind of things that they feel like will help, players reach their potential.
Yeah, I think football character is the most important thing for me because there's just so little practice time in the NFL compared to what it was 10, 15, 20 years ago that a lot of your development is going to have to be done by yourself, or you're going to have to go put in the work in the off season. Or if you want to get better, you're going to have to go do it outside of the facility. And that's something like, to use a Cowboys draft pick that worked. Tyler Smith really put into a lot of effort, to improve his game outside of practice. And you saw that pay off. I think there's been some other Cowboy draft picks where maybe you wonder if they're not being coached by this coaching staff, are they getting the work in? And I think that's what I care about. Now, one of the things that I actually quote tweeted Fish's tweet was, I think most head coaches, GMs would agree. Football character is important. Character is obviously important. However, there is a line, right, where you're boosting up players that are good character ahead of guys that are just more talented.
Yeah, for sure.
And ultimately, talent still wins in the NFL. It's important to have a strong locker room. I'm not saying that's not the case at all. But you still need to have those guys that are real difference makers on Sundays.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's still football, and I think that having a team filled with only choir boys is probably not exactly
No,
what you're looking for. You need somebody who's willing to mix it up and be tough and go over the
but be
line.
smart about it, right?
Yeah,
Like I think
exactly.
I'm going to use Dez as an example. I
Yeah,
think there's maybe some concerns off the field from Dez that I think were a little overblown during the draft, but there was one thing you could never question with Dez is that he loved
yeah,
football. And that's why you were maybe able to put up with him missing meetings, like Jerry Jones said this week. But you were able to put up with it because the guy just loved football so much. I do think there's a line here where it's important to figure out how much does a guy love football, and if he doesn't, is his talent so good that we're maybe able to overlook it a little bit?
yeah. I mean, look, it's all about understanding the shape of the issue, right? Is the issue that he's too passionate about football and that he yells at his coaches sometimes because he feels like he's not getting to contribute or not? I could work with that a little bit.
I can work
I
with
think,
that.
I think that's different than someone who likes to go out every single night and get hammered and you just don't know what's going to happen every single time they go out, and is it something really terrible going to happen? That's
Yep.
not as much of a concern, but they're all different shapes, and the depth of that kind of thing, all of that has to be kind of really examined by the people that do the background checks for the Cowboys, the private investigators, the teams that they hire to find out all about these guys. Is everybody's dealing with something, right? Like, but what's your something, and what is it? How does it affect you and your ability to be reliable and your ability to push yourself and to better yourself on your own? Because you're right. I think that's the big thing here, is that development happens away from the facility at this point. When you're at the facility, you're learning the techniques that they're asking you to use on the field. But if you want to get better at your craft and make yourself a better football player, which the team also wants you to do, by the way, you got to be able to find the motivation and the time on your own time in the off season to do that. And so they want to invest in somebody who's going to be willing to do that.
I'm also not surprised to hear that Brian Schottenheimer is prioritizing high character players, high football character players, because I think that's kind of how he got the job. Is that I think he was able to convince the Joneses that he can be the right guy for this locker room, because we're starting to see some of the things that have come out over the last year with like DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons. It's felt like a fractured locker room, and I think Brian Schottenheimer's number one goal is to get this locker room to be tight and a strong unit once again.
Yeah, and I think high football character means guys that enjoy working out, like
Enjoy the grind of it.
Yeah, and if you enjoy the grind of it, then going and grinding with your teammates, like, it's not a bore. It's not a chore. It's something that you want to do. So and I think that also in turn obviously means that your team gets along better, right? Because they're working out together. So there's all kinds of positive influence that can happen by having those types of people all kind of pointed in the same direction, very similar types folks. I think that that gives you good results.
I wanted to talk about some names that maybe fill that criteria, right? Like some high character players that maybe we haven't talked about enough that could be options at pick number 12. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. But that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, your investments, and your spending in one place, so you can stop managing your money and start building your wealth. I've been using Monarch Money for several months now. And a couple months ago, I was realizing how much money I was wasting on stupid stuff, trivial stuff. But now I am budgeting smarter and I'm saving more. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena. And with Game Time, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as it gets closer to tip off, and their last minute deals can save you up to 60%. There's so many parts about the app that I love. My favorite is that you can get a panoramic view of your seat before you buy. Plus, the all-in pricing means there's no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Later, let's talk about some high character names that maybe could be in consideration at pick number 12. You got any ones that are kind of come off the top of your mind?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about him recently a lot, and I think he kind of gets a lot of a second fiddle kind of in this specific area to his teammate, who is also a very highly thought of defender. I think Mykel Williams is a guy that from what we hear is he's a younger guy, right? He's coming into this draft. I think he's only 21. He just turned 21. And from what it sounds like is he's not the rah leader, right? He's the guy that kind of quietly comes in there and grinds every single day. Had a really, what turns out to be a really nasty ankle injury this year, played all the way through it completely. And I think he only missed like a game or two, if I'm not mistaken. And just like, and again, if you watch his tape, I mean, often the things that we have to complain about his tape is due to the fact that they threw him at this, kind of dirty work job that Georgia defenders often do, that allows the kind of guys like Jalon Walker to kind of go out there and thrive, right? And he never complained about it and was just a grinder, despite being, a very highly sought after athlete. So I just, everything you hear about him is he's that kind of leader. He is one of these guys, and I think we're going to name a bunch of them, right? Where I don't have him like, I wouldn't take him at 12 just based on like likely who else is going to be there, but he's in a group of folks that if he gets taken at 12, I certainly am interested. I'm willing to listen to exactly the thought process there, because I do think he is good enough to be in striking distance. I would like to hear the Cowboys' preferences as to why they picked him at 12. And I bet you anything that part of what they would say if he is the pick is super high character guy, definitely going to hit his ceiling, a leader in defense, right?
I'm a little higher on Mykel Williams than you are. I would be fine with the pick at 12. Because I've been saying this all along. I think if you're looking at in this class, the best defensive end to pair with Micah Parsons, I kind of think it is Mykel Williams.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense in that sense for sure.
I'll go to the other side, Georgia. What about Jalon Walker, who everybody says like his leadership is legendary in Athens? Now, I think he's small to be a full-time edge for Matt Eberflus, and that makes me a little concerned. But what if he's playing a little bit of everything? He's a weak side linebacker. He's a blitzer. He's playing downhill. It's not my favorite fit, but Jalon Walker is one of my favorite players in the class. And I just think the best way to describe him is he's a football player. Like, that's the best compliment you can give to almost anybody, is that he's just a football player. I think I would just try to figure it out down the road.
Yeah, Dad is a head football coach too, and we coached him real hard. Look, and he is the rah leader of that Georgia defense, right? Like, he is the kind of vocal leader there. My issue with Jalon Walker's always been fit, because like and I totally think I am one of these people that think, hey, he could be one of those move around guys. I would even try him on the edge a little bit just to see what you could do there, right? My concern is that I already have Micah Parsons, and I do think that at a certain point, having two of those players may actually handcuff you, right? It's like, how much scheme, how many jokers can you put onto a defense and still be sound, right? Still
That's why Eberflus gets paid the big bucks, is to figure it out. You get all these talented players, figure out a way to stop the run.
That's fair, but at the same time, like, I don't know if
it's
a problem I want to be solved. And here's the other thing too. It becomes the problem of the next defensive coordinator if Eberflus gets fired, right? It's like now you have to have a guy that is going to work with your, I'm assuming at some point, $45 million a year defensive player and your now first round pick, in his second year to make sure that they fit in this defense. So if I'm sure they could figure it out, but it's why
not the cleanest fit. Just
exactly.
I fully acknowledge it is not the cleanest fit.
Yeah.
I just think from athleticism, I think he's got great power. He can play multiple spots, and his football character is really high. That I would be willing to gamble on that type of profile. But again, I will concede it is not the cleanest fit at all.
Because I mean, here's my other concern: is much like Micah Parsons, I don't know that he's the best off-ball linebacker.
No, he's not. I mean, he can do it.
He can do it.
That's not why you're drafting him.
But that's not why you're drafting. And so, again, those kind of tweener guys, I know in the past have been like, since Micah Parsons, people are trying those, and I think that they should. The problem is that I think every other team doesn't have a Micah Parsons. We do. So what happens, it's just a lot to keep up with. It's a lot of underweight defenders on the field.
It is.
It could make you more, again, on the line of scrimmage, could make you more susceptible versus the run.
One other name that I wanted to mention, and two people I wanted to shout out. First, Nick Harris. He said immediately after the pre-draft press conference from the Cowboys, he said, one name that jumped to my mind after listening to Brian Schottenheimer talk was Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver from Ohio State. Junior Adams, the Cowboys' current wide receiver coach, recruited Egbuka in 2020. I guess Junior Adams raves about him. The character, and I think it was Ian Rappaport that said he pulled some of the GMs who are the highest character players in the class, and Egbuka was at or near the very top. I think it's rich for 12, but I wouldn't be surprised if they talked themselves into Egbuka early in round 1.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, Junior Adams coached Egbuka's coach in college or high school. So there's a grandfather thing, right?
I should also mention, I think Broadus said that Broadus said on Wednesday that the Cowboys like Egbuka quite a bit, and they might even have him higher than Golden on the report.
I don't think it's outrageous. I mean, I have all of these guys clustered really close together, right? Golden, Burden, Egbuka, Higgins, Knoll, all of them, all 5 of those guys are bottom of the first, top of the second round grades. And again, Egbuka falls under this kind of category of player where I don't have them rated at 12, but if the Cowboys drafted them at 12, it's not outrageous to me. I just want to hear the explanation. And I don't, again, much like Williams and much like I think Egbuka is the same way, I think I don't need to hear the explanation. I think I know what the explanation is, that you probably just have you being the Cowboys, have better information here about exactly what kind of person Egbuka is and that sort of thing. As far as the fit for the Cowboys goes, look, just another guy that can absolutely check all the boxes that we needed for the wide receiver 2 position, right? I think the thing about him that's different than all the rest of these guys is that there isn't a lot of apparent dynamism to his game, right? He's not exceptionally bursty. He's not exceptionally long fast. He's not exceptionally big, to the point where you're feeling like he's definitely going to be able to play the X. I feel like he's
not an X receiver.
He's not an X receiver. I feel like he's mostly a slot Z guy, but he's a great run blocker. He does all the little intangible things about playing receiver absolutely correctly and well. I'm pretty sure, isn't he the all-time leading receiver of Ohio State? Think about who's come. And I understand those other guys left college early, but I'll counteract you by saying he played with all of those guys and still was getting his share of receptions when he was playing on a team full of what ended up being a bunch of practically all pro wide receivers in Ohio State. So I think that this is a guy that, again, I said this at the beginning of the process, we've been watching him play for so long. He's one of these guys that you just kind of forget about over the process, but has always been good, hasn't really had a bad day in this process, but just has a limited ceiling. So people don't always speak gushingly of him. But I think if you get to know the person and what he's going to be like in the locker room, and to know that maybe his ceiling isn't as high as everyone else that's at his level in this class, but I guarantee you better than all the rest of these guys that this guy will hit that ceiling better than Tet, better than Golden, better than Burden, a lot of these guys.
And I think if the idea is you're going to be running more condensed formations,
Yeah, absolutely.
maybe that X receiver isn't as important. Part of me thinks that they're just going to give Jonathan Mingo every opportunity to be the sacrificial lamb at the X receiver, right? And then that CD Lamb and whoever's the other receiver are going to play a lot inside, and that's just kind of going to be the way that your offense is built. So for that reason, I don't think Egbuka is a bad fit. I don't have him rated. I don't have him rated that highly. Excuse me. But again, this is another one where I think the process and the idea of drafting a receiver with high character who can play multiple spots, who is very highly thought of in coaching circles, it's hard to get down on that pick.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't feel like a bust, right? Like it feels like you're, again, hitting a solid double. You want to try to swing for a homer. You want to try to improve your team, but maybe it's okay here to hit a solid double with the guy who is going to help balance your passing attack.
All right, let's make our final round one predictions for the Dallas Cowboys. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. As a small business owner, your work doesn't stop when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That is where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. Here's how it works. All you have to do is post your job. LinkedIn's new feature can help you write your job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. It's no wonder 72% of small businesses say that LinkedIn has helped them find high quality hires. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL mock draft show available on Locked On NFL Draft. Go inside the Locked On War Room for all 32 picks in this ultimate 7-episode series. The Locked On NFL mock draft available now on Locked On NFL Draft's YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. So with the number 12 pick in the 2025 NFL draft, Landon, the Dallas Cowboys will select
to trade down is my first guess without a doubt.
That's fair.
Listen, I mean, I was thinking about it like in as we were in the segment, and I'm like, who am I really feeling at this moment right now? And everything I'm hearing, everything that I'm seeing that other people are hearing, even the names that we're hearing being bantied about, like in the timeline right now, all of it points to a trade back, right? So I will say that I think that they're going to trade back if the Cowboys stay at 12.
Well, hold on, real quick.
Go ahead.
I think if they trade back, generally the positions that garner trades are like quarterbacks, wide receivers, pass rushers. I don't think that's the case this year. I think because Miami drafts at 13 behind Dallas, and they have such a prominent need on the offensive line, teams like Arizona, who could use offensive line help, Seattle, I think those are the teams that could potentially want to come up ahead of Miami to get their guy.
Honestly, I think that the whole performance yesterday, I mean, I can't remember what I've said on the podcast and what I've said to other people. I'm sorry, but I honestly do believe that yesterday's performance, 2 days ago performance of the press conference, I think it was just all to lay bait to make folks come and trade up for one of these offensive tackles, right? Like I think the Cowboys may be at a spot. There's been a lot of talk about, because of how folks feel about this class and because of the uncertainty of the depth of the class at the top of the draft, that a lot of these guys that are in the top 10 that aren't sure what to do, they're drafting money 5 positions or money 6 at this point, right?
Because they have no choice.
Because they have no choice, right? To get the best value, right? So there's a very good chance that there's going to be a run of all the tackles who could be starter quality tackles. And there are teams at the bottom of the draft who need starters at the position immediately. And it could be that, if it goes so badly that if you don't trade up, you and 3 other teams are waiting to see if Connerly falls to you, basically, right? So I wouldn't be shocked if a team that had a bunch of extra picks. I mean, I think Houston was a name we were hearing kicked around.
That's
I think
another good team. Yep.
Pittsburgh's a name that may be coming up for something else for what I've heard. But I think there are a couple. Denver's, I think we've heard, has been talking to teams in the
Denver
top
definitely
5
wants to come up. The Rams want to come up for that's another team to come up and trade. Buffalo wants to come up, but now you're talking about moving down to the 30s.
Yeah, and so those are all like, to me, I think no matter what, even if the best case scenarios that we could come up with that could have the players that could fall to you at 12, I have to imagine that even in those situations, if the Cowboys have something on the table to trade back, especially to get something better than their 4th round that they lost, right, which is going to be almost impossible not to if you're trading down in the first round.
Back, yeah.
Then, man, like I think that's definitely the first option, and then then it's all the names that you're hearing, right? It's Walter Nolan, it's Mykel Williams, it's Egbuka, it's Golden, it's Burden, it's all these guys seem a lot more palatable 5, 6, even 10 spots back. So yeah, if the Cowboys have a trade an offer to trade back on the table, that's what I think they're doing, and that's what I think they should be doing.
Okay, so if they can't trade back and they're stuck at 12, that phone just doesn't ring, who are they taking?
I think that they're taking Tetairoa McMillan if he's there. I think it's or Golden if Tetairoa is not there. I do think that maybe there's an outside chance that it's Kelvin Banks or someone that we're an offensive lineman. But I honestly believe that the offensive line talk yesterday was bait for people to come trade up. I think that they wouldn't turn down one that felt like Membu if he fell to them, maybe like they wouldn't turn it down if it was a good fortune. But I think everything that we heard previous to this week probably applies if they're forced to stick and pick at 12.
So I'm going to go with Matthew Golden, and that might be even if Tetairoa McMillan's on the board. I keep coming back to Brian Schottenheimer sitting at the NFL Combine meetings and talking about how they want an explosive number 2 receiver. And I love Tet McMillan. I think he's an awesome player. I would draft McMillan over Golden, but I also understand that I think there's a chance that Golden just might be a better fit in this offense because he brings something unique that they just don't have, and that is the guy that can get open quickly. We've heard Golden a lot, like in late March, early April, that he was the pick in every mock, and then it seemed like it cooled off for a little bit. And I'm wondering if the Cowboys are just kind of sending out smoke screens to make sure that nobody steals their guy. I think Matthew Golden is going to be their pick at 12.
Yeah, honestly, look, here I'll say this. I wouldn't be shocked if Matthew Golden ends up being the pick if the Cowboys traded back, right? Like, because I just don't know. Yes. I just don't know that he's necessarily going to get taken. If he doesn't get taken at 12 by the Cowboys, I don't know that he's necessarily going to get taken between where the Cowboys originally picked and wherever they're trading back to. So I definitely think Golden is someone that they're interested in at 12 or potentially on a trade back scenario. So Golden is, I think, a good pick and someone that if I had to put money on this, I probably would put it on Golden.
Okay. I'm hoping it's McMillan. But if it's Golden, I'm not going to throw a fit about it. Like I've said my piece about him. I think he's a little overrated as a prospect, but I also understand that for the Cowboys, he could be possibly one of the best options that's on the board. So
last thing before we go, I'm generally, I think, going to be okay with most of what the Cowboys are going to be able to do here, because I think unless it's something completely outrageous or crazy, which is certainly possible, they just have a lot of really good options, to be honest, And so I think that you're likely going to feel like, the worst case scenario is that, like, it's not the guy I would have picked, but I can at least see the vision. As long as there's a vision there, I think I'm going to be okay with what their choice is.
I'll probably be upset because that's my personality.
That's probably your thing. Yeah.
So. All right. That is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. We will be back at the end of round 1 discussing all of the moves, hopefully all the moves the Cowboys made in round 1. We'll talk about the pick. We'll talk about who they might be targeting on day 2. So make sure you tune in for that. Go download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Landon at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus _Moser. Enjoy the draft. Yeah. We'll see you right back here on Thursday night.